Hi, we're Quentin Cures Volumes. My name is James. Today is a Thursday, or a Poetry Thursday, and I'm going to read you some poems from the Arabian Nights, 1001 Nights, or Tales of 1001 Nights. I've been part of a read-along run by Sean D. Standfast and some others. We're reading through all 1001 Nights in various translations over the course of about a year and a half. So we've just started, and I yesterday read Night 9, which has quite a bit of poetry in it. And if you know how the Arabian Nights goes, there is a frame story in which a young woman is married to a king who has become, due to some harsh experiences, unreasonably distrustful of women. And so every night he takes a woman to bed and in the morning has her executed because he just can't trust her. His vizier or assistant eventually runs out of young virgin brides for him, and the vizier's daughter volunteers to marry the king and says, I think I can survive this. So with some trepidation, the vizier offers his daughter, and his daughter is Scheherazade, and she starts telling the king a story every night, and ends it on sort of a point of what you might call a cliffhanger. And so she will conclude it the next night, and then typically say something like, "This, however, is not more remarkable than what happened to the porter or to the fisherman," or etc. And then she'll embark on another story. So it's the ends are sort of staggered with the nights, right? The beginnings and the end of the story. And often the stories will have stories within them, like there will be three characters who arrive at the end of a night, and then the following day one will tell a story, and maybe the next day another will tell us. So anyway, all this to say that I am up to a story about a porter, a guy who carries things around for a living. And in this story, he is it starts off with him waiting near a marketplace, and a beautiful woman comes and pays him a dinar to carry her shopping around. As she goes around and makes purchases, he'll carry them in a basket. So he's sort of a human shopping cart and a minivan, I suppose. So they go through and describe all these various expensive foods and drinks and fruit and sweets that she buys. And she even buys some wine from a Christian, so, because these people are presumably all observant Muslims who do not trade in wine. And he carries them back to her home and brings them inside, where they're met by a doorkeeper who is another beautiful young woman, and then a housekeeper who comes out and takes the basket from him, and she is also a beautiful young woman. And they pay him another dinar, so he's being paid 2 dinars, which is a fabulous, extraordinary sum. And they say, "Thanks for your help, see you later." And he says, "I see you have all this great stuff. Don't you, you're going to have this fantastic meal. You probably need a man, because," as he says, "you know that there must be 4 to share a proper feast, and women cannot enjoy themselves except with men." Remember, there are 3 beautiful women in this house. "As the poet says, do you not see that 4 things join for entertainment? Harp, lute, zither, and pipe, matched by 4 scented flowers, rose, myrtle, gillyflower, anemone. These only become pleasant with another 4, wine, gardens, a beloved, and some gold. There are 3 of you, and so you need a 4th, who must be a man of intelligence, sensible, clever, and one who can keep a secret." This is the porter referring to himself. And the 3 women are surprised that he speaks up, and that he speaks so, and that he quotes the poet, the unnamed poet. And one of them says, "Who can produce us a man like that? We are girls and are afraid of entrusting our secrets to someone who would not keep them. We have read in an account what the poet Ibn al-Tumam once said. Guard your secret as you can, entrusting it to none. For if you do, you will have let it go. If your own breast cannot contain your secret, how is it to be held by someone else?" And as Abu Nawas has said, this is another classical Arabic poet, "Whoever lets the people know his secret deserves a brand imprinted on his forehead." When the porter heard what they had said, he exclaimed, "By God, I am an intelligent and trustworthy man. I have read books and studied histories. I make public what is good and conceal what is bad. As the poet says, only the trustworthy can keep a secret, and it is with the good that secrets are concealed. With me they are kept locked inside a room, whose keys are lost and whose door has been sealed." So they go on back and forth reciting poetry to make their various cases to each other. This reminds me of a discussion going on in other parts of BookTube these days, started by Kevin Toll at Kevin Toll Reads, about the relevance of classics. And I think the idea for me of a classic that is relevant is something that people don't have conversations by way of poetic references anymore, but a work of art, literature that you can reference and that people will know is in a sense a classic. There's these old stories about in a British Parliament someone would quote something in Latin or ancient Greek, and other members of the body would complete the quotation because they all shared this common education. We don't really have such a circumscribed idea of classics anymore because we're a pluralistic, we're a diverse society now, and we're exposed to many more traditions and works, and people's educations are all over the place. So it's not like anyone you meet in a certain setting in the House of Parliament, you can assume that this is a fellow who has studied Latin and perhaps a little Greek and will get your references to the Gallic Wars or whatever. But and they also had that here. So now, do we have things like that today? There are certainly still works of art that people can reference and that are relevant, such as the works of George Orwell. And there are certainly works of art that, or of history, classic histories that you can read that will give you insight into things that are going on now. And you can still quote from the classic authors in your contemporary writings. However, I recently reviewed a book. I did not review it on this channel, but I've held it up. That opened. It was a biography, and it opened by analogizing the subject of this biography to various Marvel superheroes. So I guess there are still things that you can use to make these references, and it's a little. I think it shows a certain amount of cultural decline if our references are becoming Marvel superheroes. Maybe that's snobbish on my part, but there you go. Anyway, that's what I had. I had some love poetry from the Arabian Nights. Let me read you one more quote from here. They invite him to join them for their feast, of course. And one of the beautiful women fills a cup and passes it to him and says, "Drink with pleasure and the enjoyment of good health, for this wine is a cure for all disease." The porter took the cup in his hand, bowed, thanked her, and recited again, "Wine should be drunk beside a trusted friend, one of pure birth from the line of old heroes. For wine is like the wind, sweet if it passes scented flowers, but stinking if it blows over a corpse. Then he added, "Take wine only from a fawn, subtle in meaning when she speaks to you, resembling the wine itself." So they start to have a party. Things get pretty crazy, and I'm not going to recite the tale because I would have to leave you hanging. So if you want to find out, go and get your copy of the Arabian Nights and read Night 9 and 10 to see what happens to the porter and the three beautiful women. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.